Yeah, actually, Buster would be a really cool name for a folk singer.
Is it
Buster
too?
Spade.
Is it too? Are you sold on Sam, or is it too late to change it to Buster?
Oh, it's far too late because of um, my incredible amount of fame that I've accrued from this name.
Mm,
You
that's
know,
true.
you can't. I mean, the fans would just. I mean, there'd be riots in the streets.
In the cool of the evening when everything is getting kind of groovy. In the cool of the evening when everything is getting kind of groovy. I call you up and ask you if you like to go with me and see a movie. First you said no, you got some plans for tonight, and then you stop and say, all right. Love is kind of crazy.
Welcome everybody to Casting for Two, the podcast, as always hosted by yours truly. Whoa, I'm coming in hot. This is a hot intro because it's a hot episode. Welcome everybody to episode number 363 of the podcast. Of course, I am your host, the one and only Chris. Welcome everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day, morning, afternoon, night, brunch, Brinner, all those, Linner, Lunner. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up now. Of course, if you'd like to follow me online at Casting for Two for Twitter and Instagram, you can do that. But you know what? I don't know. I took off my glasses as if I was going to get real serious, but I actually need them because I got to talk about my guest for today. My guest is a fantastic writer, songwriter, musician, singer. He does everything. Okay, I'm just gonna say that. Sam Chase is on the podcast, and he is part of Sam Chase and the Untraditionals, this mega band, and he has a new album out right now. It's available. The Last Rites of Dallas Pistol. And I recommend checking out because it's a fun album, especially if you like kind of not your traditional folk. It's like orchestral folk rock. Yeah, I'm not reading that from the bio. But you know what? I'm done. I'm tired. Let's get into this episode, all right? So, Sam, take it away. Hey, Sam, what's going on?
Nothing much. Just wrapping my head around Skype, I guess. I haven't used it in years.
Yeah, no, I get a lot of that. I have yet to find a better program for audio recording than Skype.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the staple. It's been around for long enough that nobody else really needs to fix it yet.
Right, and and so yeah, the number one thing I always get with people is, I used to have it, I haven't used it in a long time. I go, yeah, I totally get that.
I am no different than I am just like everybody else.
So where are you located?
San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you're out in Salem.
I wish, man. I'm from Salem, but I live in Texas.
Oh, whoa, where are you in Texas?
I'm in San Antonio.
Oh, I was just in San Antonio earlier this year. Never
And
been there.
you didn't tell me. How dare you? No, I'm just kidding. It's what did you think?
I liked it. I
Yeah.
didn't really know what to expect. I mean, all I really knew of San Antonio was the Alamo and
Right.
Tex-Mex. And, I went to the Alamo. I ate some Tex-Mex. I walked along the Riverwalk. I gained about 5 pounds. I stayed up late and missed my flight home and stayed an extra 24 hours. I had a good time. It's a cool little town.
Hey, and did you get your photo with the Alamo?
I took a photo of me at the Alamo, yes.
Okay. Now, when you saw the Alamo, was your first thought, wow, this is smaller than I thought it was?
Well, my first thought as a as a, I don't know, as a in between. I guess you'd call myself Gen Y. I thought of Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Okay.
And I thought about asking about the basement in the Alamo.
Right.
And then I figured, I bet they get a lot of people in their 30s asking about the basement of the Alamo who think they're really funny, and they probably don't find it funny anymore. So then I questioned that, and I figured maybe it was best to just take a picture and walk away.
There we go. Yeah, that's very diplomatic of you.
Yeah. What I was surprised by, though, was that what people don't take pictures of is the fact that it's on a bustling street and there's like a Ripley's Believe It or Not right across the street.
Correct.
And a bunch of other kiddie shit that's not really, historical in any way.
It's funny to think that at one time it was just the Alamo. There was nothing else, no homes, it was all dirt and I guess like all that. And then now the Alamo is shadowed by a Ripley's Believe It or Not, a Dave and Buster's down the street, all this crap around it, and it's, I don't know, it's there's a Chipotle somewhere around there too.
So. Well, the history of that Dave and Buster's is actually pretty incredible.
They
defended it during the war of in the Mexican American War. It was quite a battle. So I wouldn't disparage the good history of Dave and Buster's. Dave really, and Buster both of them. They really they should be on the $20 bill. That's all I'm saying.
So, I mean, I don't want to get political or anything, but are you sponsored by Dave and Buster's?
I am. Well, actually, the Sam Chase is just a stage name. My name. I'm actually Buster Chase, but I figured that Sam was a bit more presidential sounding, and people would take me more seriously.
There we go. See, you know what? Look, I know there's no judgment here, Buster. It sounds like a old timey, hey, Buster boy.
Yeah, actually, Buster would be a really cool name for a folk singer.
Is it too? Are you sold on Sam, or is it too late to change it to Buster?
Oh, it's far too late because of my my incredible amount of fame that I've accrued from this name.
That's
true. You can't. I mean, the fans would just. I mean, there'd be riots in the streets.
Right.
Just
in San Antonio.
Yeah, they'd burn the historical Dave and Buster's to the ground.
That's all right.
Remember the Dave and Buster's. Chanting.
The best part about the Riverwalk is that the water's black and slimy, but when they drain it out, they find all sorts of crap in there, like stuff that's just thrown in there and dead bodies. So.
They find dead bodies in there? That's a normal occurrence?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So, yeah, and it's always funny. I don't know. I don't know. If it was clearer, I think it'd be okay. Like, actually nice, not black water, but whatever.
Well, I'm glad that it's black water if there are dead bodies just hanging around down there.
Right. But, you think like, oh, it's easier to see, so we got to do something about this right away versus I think they drain it once a year.
Wow.
It might be less than that. I don't know. So.
Oh man, well, I'm a red pill kind of guy. I don't need to take the blue pill. It's like
gotcha.
If they what I don't see doesn't hurt me. I'll totally be in the Matrix. I'm all good with being in the Matrix.
No. If I love San Antonio, I would be the opposite pill kind of guy. But I just miss Oregon so much.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Whatever. Anyway, Sam, welcome to the podcast.
Are we on the podcast right now? Is this the intro of the podcast that we just did?
No, it's been going since you picked up. It's been going.
Cool. Nice.
I don't know why. I just felt like I should welcome you now, but even though we're already in the thick of it.
Great. Well, I'm happy to be here. And I like that we've kind of introduced each other before. I mean, mostly on the history of San Antonio and lies about my origin story before we really got into the meat and potatoes of everything.
And by the end of this interview, there will be nothing left to learn about you, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, nothing left to lie about.
Any interview you do, just send them here and say, just take what you need from that.
Yeah. I'm just going to transcribe this, and this will be my Wikipedia page.
Oh, I would be honored, really, if that happened. Yeah. But I'm curious though, because I feel like we should talk about something other than folk tales. When did you get that music bug?
Which music bug?
Oh, music bug.
Oh, music bug.
Yeah.
Oh man, I caught the music bug. It's a funny story. My dad used to play guitar to me and my sister when he would put us to bed when we were little kids, and he would sing me the songs of like John Prine and Bob Dylan and all the other greats of the era, and I didn't take any notice to what I didn't feel that bug at that time, even though I thoroughly enjoyed being an audience member. I wasn't too keen on learning how to play the guitar or sing myself. And it wasn't until we went to this family camp when I was about 12 years old, this weekly family camp out in Yosemite, that I saw there was the staff talent show, and there was these 17-year-old staff counselors had put together a little band, and they were terrible. And they played like a rock and roll rendition of like Wild Thing and Louie Louie. And they weren't any good. The drummer was insanely good though. Like he had like a double bass setup, and he was had a drum solo and was way better than everybody else. And basically it was just like but the drummer, it was like the drummer show, and then everybody else was just plodding along. And I remember I looked at the bass player, and the bass player was playing this I think it was like a Fender, precision bass. It was black with a white pick guard, and I looked, and I was infatuated with the way it looked. And I leaned over to my dad, and I was like, "Dad, I want to play a guitar like that guy." And my dad was like, "The black and white one?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to play a guitar like that." And he was like, "That's a bass." And I said, "I want to play the bass." And my dad said, "Oh, shit." And so he got me a bass. And I remember plucking the bass for the first time, expecting it to sound like a guitar. Yeah. And I thought to myself, like, oh shit. What have I gotten myself into? And I started learning on the bass. And all my other friends had guitars. And so they would let me pick up their guitars. And the guitar was way more fun than the bass. And so I just started making a lot of noise on the guitar. And at that point, I knew that I had the bug. And my dad bought me a $32 guitar from a flea market that didn't work. It's hanging on my wall right next to me right now still to this day. And that was and that's how it all started. And it wasn't until I did stick with the bass too, but when you don't know anything about music and somebody just puts a bass in your hand for the first time, I mean, there's this pretty steep learning curve there. Whereas with a guitar, you could put distortion on and turn it up real loud, and you could be a terrible guitar player, but that noise is just such a carnal, guttural feeling that you just it doesn't matter how many bum notes you're playing. It just feels so good,
It's funny because I did jazz band, and so the rhythm section are kind of the foundation of any kind of band. So not knowing music and saying I want to play bass, that's a lot of responsibility.
I had no idea. It's like being the foundation of a band, but having no idea about the foundation of music,
Yeah.
is a pretty difficult thing to do. You have to take yourself very seriously when you're like a drummer or a bass player, and as a guitar player, I don't think that's the case.
Right. And I've always said that, compared to drums, like guitar players, they just look visually cooler. Even though, drummers have, these giant kits and all that. But when there's a photo shoot to be done, drummers, they're just standing there holding sticks. And it looks so lame.
Yeah, it does.
But it's, you know what? At least we'll keep you in time. That's
Yeah,
the one thing. We're
that's all
always
I
on
ask.
time.
Because I'm a guitar player, I have terrible rhythm. So it really would help. Always feel like the bass and the bass and the drums are like the foundation of a building, and the framing of the house, and the walls or the bricks, and the mortar and everything. And the guitar player is just the shit in the fridge. Because
it's the leftovers that
it's all the good food in the fridge.
Yeah.
It's like, people come over and they don't appreciate the house that they're in, but it's like they look in the fridge and they're like, oh man, they're stocked. Look at all this good food. And then the foundation sitting there, the concrete on the in the garage is just sitting there being like, this we just got here.
We're here too, god damn it.
Yeah, the guitar player is just the furniture that just made its way in. You're like, it's a comfortable couch. But the floor underneath the carpet, is just sitting there being like, man, I'm supporting this couch.
And how long have you been writing music?
Ever since I picked up the guitar.
Okay.
Like I picked up the guitar and just hit the ground running. It wasn't like there was any period of me needing to learn how to play. The songs just started pouring out, and it wasn't for a long time. I didn't necessarily consider myself a songwriter at that point, but I couldn't stop writing riffs and songs and wanting to get up on stage and sing them.
And have you, I don't know, recently just taken a look at some of your earlier work and just gone, what the hell was I thinking?
No.
All
of my songs. You know what? Actually, I do remember most of the songs that I've written since I was 14 years old. It's like I can't remember, any of my best friends' phone numbers or anything like that. But I can remember the songs I wrote when I was 14. And a lot of them, you got to expect that they're not terribly good, not only because I had just started writing songs, but because I was 13, 14 years old. But thinking back on some of the songs, I do feel like there was a wisdom there that I wouldn't have expected, or perhaps by the age that I am now, a wisdom that would have accumulated a little bit more than it has up to this point. Like the arc of the wisdom, or the accumulation of wisdom that I've gotten over the course of my life, I feel like it should be way more when looking back at the wisdom that I had at the age of 14. I've moved very slowly, is what I'm trying to say.
It doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there, as long as you get there,
Yeah, I'm still plodding along. But moral of the story is that, no, some of those songs are badass.
Do you ever just want to bring them back, or have you brought them back in some sort of new, redone way?
Well, yeah, actually, one of the songs on this new album that's coming out, I wrote 17 years ago. And this album is an 18-song rock opera concept album. But I hadn't really known at the time that this song was meant for this rock opera that would come down the years down the road. But and I remember at the time that I wrote it, I was like, why am I writing this song? And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I was like, oh, that's why I wrote this song, because 15 years from now I'm gonna need it.
What was the name of the song?
The name of the song is Mother and Son on the Run.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, because I gotta compliment you on the new album first off, because
Oh,
I
thank you.
think the overture is just a great way to hook people in and keep them in.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of the band Gogo Bardello?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love their stuff, but they always get me with that first song, and then I stay around for the entire album. And when I was listening to the first track, that's when that's the feelings that I got for this album.
Yeah.
It is there once is that fun to play live? Do you play that live, the overture?
We haven't yet, but we're gonna play it at our album release at the Fillmore
Okay.
next week. And we've been practicing it a lot. It sounded. I mean, yeah, it is a lot of fun to play and practice. I'll tell you that.
Is there off the new album, was there one song in particular that was a little bit trickier to figure out, whether it was the music or the lyrics wasn't working for you?
You mean in terms of taking that song and then playing it live, or
Oh no, just like
recording it?
in general, like making it.
The entire album was a process of me biting off way more than I could chew.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like embarking across the Pacific Ocean, having no idea how to steer a boat.
Yeah.
But, you know, thinking that it sure would be fun to try.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, tracks like the overture or, you know, the climax of the album called Your Reward. A lot of those tracks have, especially Your Reward, have like 14 guitar tracks, you know, 6 or 7 violin tracks, 9 trumpets, 3 cellos. You know, we tried to really recreate like a symphonic type sound.
Yeah.
And so without having them playing the same riff, you know, over and over again. So layering harmonies and layering, you know, textures and things. On that track, there's 8 or 9 different drummers. You know, so trying to figure out what all those parts were going to do wasn't necessarily challenging, but it was one of the most fun and rewarding things I've ever done. Because, I mean, I'm not like a less is more type of a person. I'm more of like a more is more type of person. And the more that I can add on there, the better it's going to get. And the sound engineer and the rest of the band usually have to pull me back from the brink. I'm always like, one more track. So it's always really fun for me to be able to kind of build something that huge. That being said, there was, you know, my confidence level wasn't on the same level as my creative sense of mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I definitely was looking at our bank account just dwindling as we're recording this and thinking to myself, this album better sound good. I better know what I'm doing here because my God, this is scary. And and as it started to wrap up, I was like, oh, just Sam, please don't die in a car accident before this album comes out. Like, you gotta see this thing through, you know, to make sure that everything is perfect. So it was the only thing that was challenging was me second guessing myself as to whether or not this was actually going to work.
Gotcha. Okay. And you know, with 18 tracks, is it fair to say that as far as songwriting goes, are you kind of burnt out, or do you like I can't wait to write more for the next project?
I've already got a new album that I just finished tracking last week. It's going to come out next year.
Gotcha.
That has 15 more songs, and then I have another album in the works that I'm starting to put together. I mean, I love writing songs and I love recording. You know, when inspiration hits, you can't really say no to it. And
right.
But there was something about this album that it's been really difficult for me. Like I've found myself writing more soft solo songs that don't need a ton of instrumentation, that don't need 12 different guitars and 40 cellos, and I'm a bit worried that I might be burnt out on the heavy, huge rock and roll songs of this album. But I'm sure I'll get back to
it. Yeah. You'll find your way back. Don't worry.
I sure hope so, yeah. But these soft songs, they're going to be a lot easier to record.
There you go. And I'm curious, if there's one thing I love on the podcast, it's a good horror story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, do you have any gig horror stories?
Yes, I have many. I've been playing music for a long time. And if you don't have any horror stories, I don't know how you can count yourself as a musician.
Yeah, I ask that question, and sometimes the people go, no, I don't have anything. And I'm just, really, dude? Either that or it was so bad they just blocked it out of their heads.
Oh, man. Oh, there's so many. If I had time to sit and think about it, I could probably come up with some of the better stories. But, well, there's one, and I don't want to say the venue.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I don't want to say the city.
Yeah, that's fine.
But it was in Oregon. And,
okay.
And I remember I was camping with friends, and I ended up, we were way out in the woods and stuff, and I had a show that night, and I was like, y'all should come out to this show. And they were like, how far is it out of the woods? And I was like, an hour and a half. And they were like, no. So I was like, all right, I'll go by myself. And so I left them as they were drinking rosé, standing in the river in the warm sun, just living their life to their fullest. I get in my van to drive out to this venue to play this show. And when I get there, the bar's locked. And there's one lady that comes walking up, and she's super excited about the show. And she was like, what is the bar? Why is the bar locked? I'm like, I have no idea. And she was like, I'm really excited to see you tonight. And I was like, oh, really? Wow. Oh, that's awesome. And I was thinking to myself, this show's going to be great. If I've already got one person waiting in line, this is going to be great.
There you go.
So the bar owner finally opens the bar. I go inside. Turns out she's the only lady that showed up the entire night. And before I got up on stage, she got real drunk and didn't pay attention to one note that I had played.
Ah, dude.
And at one point, her and the bartender go out for a cigarette while I'm in the middle of a song, and I was singing with my eyes closed. And I remember opening my eyes, and I was completely alone in the bar, and I'd been singing to myself for about 15 minutes all by myself. And so I just kind of stopped for a while and sat down on the stage and just sipped my drink for a while till I came back, got back up, played some songs, and then the bartender was like, any Johnny Cash? And I was like, does it matter? And he was like, yeah, man. And he brought out a big upright bass, and so we just jammed on the one verse of, Boy Named Sue that I knew or whatever, and just did that. And then he gave me a taco and said, I'm not paying you. And I was like, I don't blame you. And I drove an hour and a half all the way back. I mean, there's stories like that aren't exactly horror stories, but that's the one that comes to mind first. I mean, there's also playing a laundromat. And when I was in one of my punk bands, and we got too drunk and ended up standing on the tables, and the guy who worked at the laundromat screamed at us, turned the sound off, kicked us out in the middle of our set. I mean, there's other shows like that, but I mean, it's like I don't consider those horror stories so much. I consider those more heroic stories. The horror stories are the ones that make you feel like what you're doing isn't the right path, and that you should probably quit and get a day job. Those are the shows that I consider to be more horrific than the ones that might be more colorful and more exciting stories to tell. Because I definitely second-guessed my path as I was driving an hour and a half back to my friends who had been hanging out and enjoying their weekend by the river.
I mean, do you you have an empty bar? Do you think to yourself, well, I guess I can just practice stuff, your new stuff, or is it just why I don't need to do this?
It's more like an I don't need to do this.
Gotcha.
I was playing another place in Oregon, and not to defame the good name of Oregon, but there are certain towns in Oregon that are better than others. That's for sure when it comes
Oh
to
yeah.
music.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And I walked into this place, and the guy at the bar was like, "Hey, man, thanks for showing up early. Like, really appreciate it. We quadruple booked the show by accident. Like, I booked some stuff, then the booker booked some stuff, then somebody else booked some stuff. We got 8 bands on the bill, and this is me. I'm playing solo at this point. And, would you mind going on an hour and a half early at 7:30?" And I was like, no, it's fine. I'll go on an hour and a half early, knowing that anybody who would have come to see me wouldn't show up an hour and a half before my set. But, he was like, this dude was really in a hard place, and I felt the need to help him out. And so I ended up hanging out. The first act played, and he was this like bohemian folk singing traveler who'd come up through South America, and I think he was on a bicycle, and it was like one of those like very like boho type hippie dudes, really nice kid, but like a bit too much of an ego, and got up there and really felt like he was so emotive, and I appreciated that. I appreciated like the fact that he was really putting his all into his music, but he was terrible. He was god awful, and he killed the vibe in the room, and everybody left. And then I get up there to a room where this kid has now gotten drunk real fast, and he was back to me at the bar, chatting up somebody else who was sitting at the bar really loud about 5 feet away from where I'm playing. And then 3 other people had come to see me early, and that's the whole show. And I'm sitting up there, and I'm just like, this is a waste of time. This is absurd. I'm playing these soft songs, and this guy's just screaming over me, and everybody's rolling their eyes. And then at one point, I had my guitar case open on the stage, not necessarily for tips, but just because I left it open because I was lazy. And this kid turns around, and with this grand, extravagant motion, whips this giant Ziploc bag full of coins out of his jacket pocket, big freezer bag full of coins. And he like swings it around his head, and dramatically opens it up and just dumps the entire bag into my guitar case. We're talking about just like tons of, a entire freezer bag full of coins that I don't want. And at this point, I hate this kid. And so I wrap up the set, and I go down to, put my guitar in the case, and I look through these coins, and none of it is American currency at all. It's just pesos and things. I'm like, oh my God, this kid just gave me his trash. So I just emptied it out on the stage, put my guitar back in the case, and walked out. Those are the types of stories, definitely, where you feel like, artists don't really get what they deserve from people, but I feel like traveling musicians, it's 10 times more difficult, we're a dime a dozen. Music comes out of the tap these days. It's so hard to kind of like just get kind of a little bit of, we're sensitive. We've been traveling, we've been on the road for hours, we can be very delicate.
Right.
And in those moments, that's where you're like, maybe I should go back to school.
Veterinarian school's looking pretty good right now.
Yeah. You know what? Putting down puppies sure does sound more rewarding than what I'm experiencing.
I got all this change. I can do a deposit for something,
Yeah. But, at the same token, the shows that go really well, there's no moment of being a veterinarian that that feels that good when you're playing a show that everybody's on board and feeling good.
There's this, the whole, musician guy getting drunk and stuff like that. Is that a normal occurrence, or, is it?
Yeah.
It's
most venues pay you in drink tickets anyways. It's like it's funny how, especially for musicians, it's in no other business do you go to work and they're like, hey, you want to get drunk before you go to work? Like the people that are paying you. There's kind of, I feel like, I drink my fair share. I enjoy it a lot. And I'm not, saying that I don't appreciate the drink tickets that I get. But I find it kind of interesting that the kind of the go-to is the drink tickets rather than like feeding the band. And I find that really interesting, especially when bands are on the road, and they've been driving for 8 hours to get to a show. What they really need is some sort of food or sustenance, something kind of like keep them going and getting them on stage. And in so many different venues, there's no food, but there are drinks. And it kind of does breed a culture of, heavy alcohol use, which, again, I like.
It's so I've only done stand up one time in my life, and I had a blast doing it. But there's this thing where we went from a comedy club, and then we went to a open mic that was in a whole nother building. But everybody that did the comedy club went to the open mic. They all went first. They all did their sets, their new material, stuff like that. And I was scheduled to go up like at 2 a.m., which for the first time I was like, you know what, let's do this. I'm excited to do this. The thing that pissed me off the most was I was sitting there quietly, patiently laughing along with them, at their jokes. And as soon as I go up there, all the comedians that were at the comedy club or that went before me were next to me, just talking, laughing, and just being assholes. And that irked me a bit because it's like, look, if you want to leave, go ahead and leave. I'm not gonna be bummed about that, but don't stand there next to me having loud conversations while I'm trying to do this first time set that And eventually they all did fuck off, and I was just like, well, all right. And then jokes. So
what sucks about that is that they know better.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
they've been there. And it's like it's hard for me to blame an audience member because audiences, they just don't know better. They paid to have an experience, and if that experience includes not listening to you, then all right, whatever. And if they didn't pay to get in, then they don't owe me anything.
Right.
But another musician or a fellow comedian, like they should know better, and they should at least try and be a little bit more mature if they are practicing their new shit on stage. Like they're at work, and they need to act a little bit more professional around the people that they are up there with.
I'm glad Buster Chase gets it, first of all.
Yeah. Well, actually, I did stand-up for a while, too. And I ended up teaching a section of stand-up at UC Santa Cruz back in the early 2000s. Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you still do it, or is it long gone?
No, I don't do stand-up, but, I tell stories on stage when I'm playing music. Yeah. And so I crack jokes and things, and there's certain kind of, I guess you'd call them bits in between songs. I got a good type 5 probably going.
All right, Sam. We need some jokes. You got any? Like, yeah, boy. You pay me in drinks and tacos.
Yeah, yeah. As long as I get my 2 well drinks or PBRs, that'll satiate me enough to tell some jokes. That'll give
All
me the 90 calories that I need over a 6-hour period.
This will hold me off for 12 hours.
Yeah.
But for the people at home who want to pick up the album, follow you online, listen to any music, all that good stuff, where can they do all that?
Okay, my website is google.com. And you could just Google my name and I'll pop up all over the internet. Or if you want me to be more specific, you can go to thesamchase.com, and that's where all of the I've accumulated all the links that people can attach, can branch out from. My Facebook, my Instagram, my merch page, all the shows, everything. It all comes out of thesamchase.com. But if you Google me, I'm right at the top of the page too. So works that easier too.
Nice. Sam, thank you so much for the wonderful chat. I'm glad we were able to talk and share stories and laughs along the way.
Yeah, man, this was fun. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're easy to talk to, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime you're in Texas, in San Antonio, call me up. We'll go look at dead bodies.
Yeah, man.
If that's too morbid.
No, well, it's like I've already seen the Alamo, so yeah, let's do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Now you're gonna really see the Riverwalk now. All right.
Yeah.
But you have a good rest of your day. All right, man.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.